Now, as you would have heard, Queensland is going to reopen its border to Sydney from Monday. So a border that never should have been shut is being opened again. South Australia is going to do the same, but it's going to make sure people from Sydney get tested for COVID. No harm in that. They should have done that in the first place instead of shutting the border. But let's get back to the Sunshine State, because this is a state that relies, of course, on tourism. And it's adopted ridiculous, heartless and hardline border closure policies for most of the last year, in defiance of the federal government, in defiance of the New South Wales government, in defiance of people affected, and I reckon in defiance of common sense. Yet have a listen to Queensland's Labor Premier Annastacia Palaszczuk today, putting her hand out to Canberra.
I honestly think there is a case to be made to the federal government that perhaps Scott Morrison and the federal government could look at those industries that are doing it tough, and maybe JobKeeper does need to be extended for those industries. We know in other industries they have bounced back after COVID, and some industries are doing a lot better than others. But we do know that the tourism industry is hurting, especially those regions which relied heavily on international travellers.
So she shuts borders unnecessarily, increases the pain and suffering on her own tourism industry, her own people, and then she demands the rest of the country subsidises her state for that self-harm. I keep telling people that they're too optimistic about 2021. It's going to be a shocker of a year. Too many people have learned too little over the past 12 months. It's like we're stuck in a time warp. Canberra has even extended the ban on New Zealand arrivals based on a total of 3 coronavirus infections. How long till that Queensland border gets closed again? It must be just a few infections away. You'd hardly take a punt and book a holiday there, would you? Let's cross live to Queensland now and catch up with the opposition leader there, David Crisafulli. Thanks for joining us, David. You'll be pleased that this border is opening. Like me, you might be staggered at Annastacia Palaszczuk's hypocrisy, but I suppose you'll want these job seeker payments to be extended in Queensland.
I don't mind a conversation around helping industries that are doing it tough, but I'd also like a conversation about getting the economy going again. It's one thing to subsidise those who are hard on their luck, and we've seen that, and that's fit and proper. But what about a conversation about getting the city back to work? And the Premier went to Cairns today, and her only solution was that the federal government should keep subsidising those who aren't in a job. Well, what about getting the city back to work by bringing forward infrastructure? And the amazing thing is, if you create jobs, if you deliver projects rather than push them into the never-never, that person who is wearing the hard hat and digging the road, he or she might go and buy a coffee, which keeps the young barista in a job. And that's how economies go round. This nonsense that somehow the only panacea for our ills is to continue a subsidy scheme, well, that's only one part, and one very small part of the equation of getting the economy back on its feet.
But the way to have the economy recovering is to have people moving and spending around as normally as possible. Now, we can't do much about overseas tourism and students and the like. That's another debate to be had with the federal government, and the vaccine and a lot of factors play into that. But surely the state governments who keep slamming shut borders, as Annastacia Palaszczuk has done, she even had a lockdown in Brisbane this month on the basis of one case. How can she then complain about what's happening to the economy?
You know, the one thing, Chris, overwhelmingly that business tell me repeatedly, what they want to know is a clear set of rules. What are the rules? What goes into making that decision? And if that occurs, well, then people can have faith. But when the rules always change, and the reason for maintaining or opening a border closure, if that's always changing, well then, as you quite clearly said in your introduction, that then casts doubt on people's mind whether or not they want to book a holiday, whether or not they're prepared to come and see a loved one, and probably more pertinently, whether or not they're prepared to invest. And the message that I want to give is that Queensland, in a post-COVID era, we're very well placed. We have so much to give. We've got an amazing tourism offering. We've got agriculture, we've got mining. What we need is certainty. And medical experts can provide health advice. It's up to governments to deliver clear, articulate reasoning, to be transparent, to be open. That's what I haven't seen a lot of. And that's what will keep their feet to the fire, so we can get a clear set of rules so people can plan and get on with their life. Because in 2020, there was a lot of misery. And 2021, will not be better unless we can help people get off the canvas, create jobs, stimulate the private sector. That's the values that a good government should be pursuing in what is a difficult period. Very
hard for any of us to book a holiday to Queensland when we see how quickly those borders will be shut. We can all see that disappear before our very eyes.